Welcome everyone. Thank you. We will get started. As you can see, a little pop-up has come up to say that we'll be recording this session for those who have not been able to attend. There will also be a transcript for people to look back on if they needed further information. If you need to ask a question at some point, I'll get back to that in a minute, but open the chat up on the top. You can click on the chat and it will come down on the side there. So it is our Year 10 information evening. You can see the graduates were on that last slide. And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the many lands on which we meet tonight and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. During the information evening tonight, we have a few people in attendance that are here to support you. Alison, our principal, is not in attendance tonight. She's actually on leave currently. Myself, Reg Byrne, the assistant principal for senior sub-school. Rebecca Taylor, senior sub-school leader. Bridget is someone that you can turn to for support in finding out more information. Our Year 11 level coordinator, our VM coordinator, Ben Strickland, and our careers and vet coordinator, Graham Sinclair. All of these people are available for you if you need any to understand any, if you have any questions about any of the work moving from Year 10 into VCE. Also notice that Tara is online tonight, so welcome Tara and thanks for coming in. There are two senior programs offered by Diamond Valley College. We have our VCE, Victorian Certificate of Education, and our Victorian Certificate of Education Vocational Major. All the rules determined by VCAR, the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority, can be found in the VCAR handbook. And there's a link there. It's important to have a bit of an understanding of the VCAR website, particularly as you move into the VCE and VM. So we'll keep referring to the VCAR website quite regularly as we get prepared to move into VCE. I'm going to hand over to Graham, who will continue on with a little bit of discussion around the next slide.
Thanks, Reg. So the slide we have up on the screen for you guys to see now just indicates the educational pathways that the students have the option to choose from over the next couple of weeks when they're looking at their programs. So we can see at DVC, as Reg has mentioned, we offer the VCE and we also offer the VCE Vocational Major. And I guess what the graphic is showing us is what are the immediate outcomes or opportunities that are available to students once they can conclude their studies in either VCE or the vocational major. So with the VCE, we can see that those students have an additional opportunity at the end of their studies. They're able to get direct access into universities, whereas our students who go through the vocational major can access apprenticeships and traineeships and directly enter into TAFE. However, the opportunities to enter into university at this stage or at that stage at the completion of Year 12 are fairly limited. The entrance into universities is a space that is changing over time, and it's difficult for us to anticipate exactly what it'll look like in 2 years, but at the moment this is the way in which those access is made to students. Another key element for us to notice in terms of those educational pathways is that vet studies can be included in both of those models as well, so that's something that we want the students to keep in mind. The other thing for us to keep in mind with this transition into the further into the senior sub-schools, there's lots of acronyms for parents and students to become aware of. So roll through some of those that we will cover across this evening. Most of those top four will all be spoken to this evening, so we don't need to go into too much detail there. VTAC is a tertiary Victorian Tertiary Admission Centre. They sit between the students and the universities and the TAFEs and help to organise the applications for further studies, but it's also the site and the resource that we're asking our Year 10 students to access to do a little bit of research in terms of taking that next step on their career journey. So some terms that are specific to VCE that we want students and parents to understand is the idea of a unit. So essentially, a unit is a single semester's worth of a subject. In previous years we will have referred to them as subjects, but we're looking at units now. And instead of calling them subjects, we'll call them studies, and students can go into the VCAR website and look up study designs to see what studies are made up of. And once we start to get into the way in which the students are assessed within units and within studies, some units and studies will involve the students completing school assessed coursework, and some of the more practical subjects might have the students completing school assessed tasks. It's just different ways in which the students can be assessed within their VCE. And for some of our students, a good number of them, they'll be working towards gaining an ATAR, which will be used or is used by some universities as a mechanism to select students into university courses.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I'm just going to start off and talk about how is the VCE achieved. So as you're probably aware, the VCE is a combination of students gaining satisfactory units at year 11 and year 12, because it's that combination of satisfactory completion that makes students eligible at the end of year 12 to receive their Victorian Certificate of Education. So the requirements to be eligible for the certificate, there's a number of different components in meeting that eligibility. So the first one is a minimum of 16 units, which is that combination of years 11 and 12. One of the other requirements is it must include at least 3 units of English, 2 which must be at a unit 3 and 4 sequence. So at year 11, students study unit 1 and unit 2, and at year 12 they study unit 3 and 4. So I suppose right away we're learning that English is an essential component of students attaining their VCE, and students must have satisfactory completion of 3 of those units to be eligible. Then the next component is at least 3 additional unit 3 and 4 sequences, and that's something that impacts students when they're at year 12. And it may also include a VET subject, so a vocational education and training certificate, as part of students' VCE, which Graham will provide a little bit more information as we proceed with this evening. So I suppose just to provide a summary, and obviously right now, obviously we're focusing on year 11. So year 11 is a lot different to year 10. So at year 10, students have a lot of electives. They have some of their core subjects which run the whole year, but yeah, they have different electives. At year 11, it's a lot different. Students study 12 units, which equates to 6 subjects over the whole year. So students generally will stay in the same 6 subjects throughout the whole year when they start at year 11. At year 12, students generally study a minimum of 10 units. So 5 subjects are units 3 and 4, which obviously need to be the same subjects so they meet that sequence requirement. If a student has done an advanced placement in year 10, they will complete an additional 2 units. So as we can see, if students satisfactorily complete all of their studies or their subjects, they easily meet that 16 unit requirement. So, you know, that's generally one of the requirements that's easy to attain if students are able to satisfactorily pass all of their subjects. Students who may complete a number of advanced placements might also have the opportunity to complete a tertiary level subject at year 12 as well, which again is something that Graham can provide more information about. I'm going to hand back to him now.
Alrighty, thanks, Beck. So this next slide is just something for students and parents to think about, because we want the students to consider carefully and put a little bit of thought into the process of actually deciding which subjects they would like to do. So some of the things that we think are important for students to consider is what is it that interests you. We want the students to be engaged in their schooling, and we're hoping that as a part of their VCE program, they're going to be choosing subjects that they'll find more engaging, perhaps in school, now that they have the freedom to choose more of their subjects and have a bit of or more of a say in the development of their program. So we're also asking the students to consider if thinking about maybe some occupational pathways that might result from the choice of subjects or some of the skills they might develop in subjects. We also want them to have a look at university courses. We spend a little bit of time talking about the idea about prerequisites, which are subjects that students need to include into their program to be considered to get into a course. So we provide the students with the resources necessary to find out which subjects are prerequisites for courses that might be of interest to them so that they can include those into their program. Also this week, we had the students working on their career analysis task. Again, the idea of that task is to get the students to be thinking a little bit ahead of where they are at the moment and try and do some research into those courses and the requirements there, but also think about the skills that they need to develop for particular areas as well. So essentially, we just want the students to be making some informed choices. So the next question might be, well, which subjects are available to the students at Diamond Valley? So for the students who access this information, we ask them to go to our webpage and go to the curriculum section of the webpage and just access the VCE showcase and maybe download the VCE digital handbook as well, which will outline the subjects that we have or the students will have access to, but it'll also give them an overview of what those subjects are covering and the type of learning that they will involve. And the students can also go to the VCAR website, as we've said a number of times, to have a look at the study designs just to see what subjects are structured around and how assessment is completed in each of those subjects. So these are the resources we want students accessing as they go through that decision-making process. And now Beck's going to talk about potential program structures.
Mic on, that would help. So what we have here is a bit of an example of a VCE program having a look at that 2-year plan. So at the moment, obviously our focus is on year 11, but it just gives you that visual planning idea of what students' programs may look like over the 2 years. So what we have here is obviously at year 10, all students are studying English and they have other studies currently which cover all of the different domains. So when students get to year 11, the only subject they do have to study is English or English literature. But as we'll provide more information about, it's important that students make sure that they're picking subjects that may be prerequisite studies for university or subjects that they're going to enjoy the learning and do really well at. So using this as an example, this student in year 11 in 2024 is studying English, maths methods, health and human development, legal studies, biology and PE. In second semester or unit 2, this student's got the same subjects. However, you'll see that food technology's been changed for legal studies. So at year 11, students are allowed to change a subject, but obviously it'd have to fall within the blocks and not impact on students' other subjects. But that is something to consider, because at year 11, we need to make sure that students have a program that they're going to engage in and do their best work in when it gets to year 12. At year 12, we can't do any subject changes because part of that VCE requirement, as I explained earlier, was that they need to have Unit 3 and Unit 4 of the same subject. So that's why they can't do any study subject changes. Year 12 in 2025, which seems a long way away, as we went through before, students complete 5 subjects. So the students continuing with English, obviously, they may do maths methods or further maths, depending on how they've gone with the subject content and rigour, continuing with health and human development, food technology and biology, and then They've got a study session, so they're only studying those 5 subjects. And we give students a study session at Year 12 just to support them with the extra rigour and learning and preparation for SACs that is required as part of the Year 12 program. So that just gives you a little bit of an overview and understanding of what the next 2 years may look like for students as far as their program. Okay, VCE and VM policies. So we've started, supporting students with getting an understanding of what the different policies are around VCE. And our policy handbook outlines all of the expectations and rules that must be adhered to in the VCE. And this is run in accordance with VCAR. So there are requirements surrounding attendance, which I'll go through in a little bit more, SAC and SAT requirements as well. We've got specific processes for missing a SAC due to illness, what the process is in catching up and the time frame that must be completed in. Students that may require special exam arrangements, and this is especially the case at units 3 and 4, but they're things that we can start putting in place at units 1 and 2. So supporting those students that may have an IEP at Year 10 or may have some learning difficulties perhaps, that we can provide some extra support to help them access their exams at the same level as well. And you may have heard of the GAT, the General Achievement Test as well. So all students that complete a Unit 3 and 4 subject in 2024, so those students that are completing an advanced placement, they will sit the GAT in Year 11 to fall in the line with their advanced placement, but then at Year 12 they will also sit it as well. So with the attendance policy, this is something that is documented on our college website, and we'll provide students with more information prior to starting at 2024. But all students at VCE and VM need to meet the attendance requirements. So students are required to attend a minimum of 90% of scheduled classes for each VCE VM unit that they are enrolled in. And students who do not attend at least 90% of scheduled classes may receive an N for the unit. So that's why, there's really stringent processes about if you're away ill, providing medical documentation, or if there was a medical appointment, etc., to support students in meeting that 90% achievement. And that's basically students need to be in classes learning. So it provides the opportunity to maximise student achievement and outcomes for all students, but also, so staff can also authenticate student work as well. Towards the end of this year, ready for next year, so students will complete an orientation program. We'll also give them their attendance policy as well, which students and parents need to read and sign off just to show that they understand the different parts of the policy and the requirements for students as well. But that's something that we'll certainly work with students in understanding towards the end of the year. Now I'm going to hand over to Ben.
Thanks, Beck. So I guess, this is a really exciting time for a lot of students and for parents as well, especially if this is your first time having a child go into VCE or VM. It is a really exciting time, but it also can be quite a daunting prospect as well. And obviously, as the students move into our senior school, they are going to be facing many challenges, and obviously the pressure of school starts to become a little bit more intense. So it's really important that we look at what the school can do, and obviously we ask for family as well, but definitely as a school we really pride ourselves on the way in which we support our students. So there are some particular things that we do within the college that that really try and help those students through the next 2 years. So I'm not going to go through all of these. You can have a bit of a read of those yourself, the study skills, time management and support that we give students with all of those things. Beck alluded to study classes and the fact that even during those study sessions, many of our teachers will give their time to come down and meet with students and even after school programs and things as well. Graham, who will talk to you again a bit later on about the vet stuff, but also as a careers person, there to really help and support the students, especially towards the end of the VCE when they're really starting to think about what they're going to do beyond school. And for a lot of kids, that can be a really daunting prospect and a difficult time. So having that person there with all of that knowledge that they can tap into is really important. We have a mentor program. So all of our Year 12s have the opportunity to nominate a teacher that they might have met over the years that they feel they've got a really good working relationship with. And that's a program that's really about trying to just support those students with a bit of one-on-one time, somebody that kids can just go to and talk to, whether it's about work or it's about study habits or it's just about maybe needing a little bit of a pep up and a bit of inspiration. Like I said, you can see there many things. Parent-teacher interviews. We do separate interviews for units 3 and 4 students, and that allows parents and students and staff to just have a little bit longer to talk to each other and work through some of the issues that might be happening. Revision classes. We have a Year 12 study camp. Practice exams, Ed Rolo, which is something that the students will become very familiar with. So lots and lots of things there. And look, there's many other things that we do as well, but there's some of those key things that it's really important that students and parents are aware of that the school does to try and support these students through this exciting but sometimes a little bit challenging time. So I guess my main reason for being here tonight is to talk a bit about the vocational major program. So it's a new program. It's something some people might be familiar with, the program called VCAL, and VCAL was around for many, many years and really was a program that was aimed at students who were interested in doing a more applied and hands-on program. The vocational major has taken over from the VCAL program, so there has been a shift. This year is the first year that VM is running, and this is now the program that has replaced VCAL. There are some fairly significant changes to this. So if anybody is familiar with VCAL, it's really important just that you are aware of the fact that we're talking about VM now, and that VCAL is not a program that runs anymore. So as we've alluded to already, there's two main programs that students have the opportunity to look at through their next 2 years of schooling. We as a school and me as the VM coordinator, it's really important that we do look at VCE and acknowledge that VCE is a program, and as Graham showed us with a slide earlier in the presentation, it's a program that does offer students more flexibility and more options at the end of school. And we as a school really try and encourage and support students to think about VCE as their first option. But as we know, not all students are going to be suited necessarily to a VCE program as it sits. So the Department of Education and we at Diamond Valley College, we offer an alternative, which is the vocational major program. So as you can see from this slide here, this program is a 2-year program, just like the VCE, and students do need to complete units 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they will need to do a 2-year program. It's not like the old VCAL program that had intermediate and senior. So once students begin the VM, it is a 2-year program and they must complete the 16 units or more, just like the students do in VCE. So you can see here on this slide here, to be eligible for the certificate, the students must complete VCE VM literacy, or they can do VCE English if students really want to take on that challenge. And it has to be a unit 3-4 sequence. So they must complete, basically they have to complete both units of year 12. VM numeracy or any of the maths that the school offers. So we have a couple of students this year that are doing VM, but are also completing a general maths subject as well. And that's just something because they feel that maths is going to help them in their future pathway. All students complete work-related skills, personal development skills, and they must complete a VET certificate. So the VCE students have the option of doing a VET certificate. In the VM program, students must complete a VET certificate. So they have to be enrolled in a TAFE course. And you can see there that they must do at least 180 hours of that VET course. Okay. So as you can see, hands-on approach to learning. So the vocational major program, it's not going to be for everybody. So as we said before, we're really encouraging and really wanting kids to try and tackle VCE and give VCE a go, because that is the one that's going to be most important. But the vocational major, I guess, is really a program that is for students who are more hands-on learners. Maybe they like to do things a little bit more. They like to use their hands more. Our VM students spend a lot of time out in the community and working with community organisations. So we've got students at the moment working down at Alice Cottage in Wattle Glen. We're going down to Hurstbridge Community Hub. We've got students at Diamond Valley Learning Centre. We link in very closely with Nillumbik Council and our local schools. So it's really a community-based program. It's a program for students who are very much capable of independent learning. So just because a student might like to do woodwork or might like to do food doesn't necessarily mean that the VM is going to be the program that is most suitable for them. It's a program for students who really like to have that independent learning, like to get out in the community, give back to their community. So that's really a main focus of the vocational major. And so, as you can see there, it involves literacy, numeracy, personal development skills, work-related skills, and a VET. And we might just jump to the next slide. So you can see here, unlike the VCE, where students get to select from a range of different subjects and subjects that really might suit them, the VM program, once a student is in that program, they follow the same timetable every week. So they don't select electives like they do in VCE. They follow a set program. So you can see there, on a Monday and a Tuesday, our students are at school, all in the same class together doing the same subject. On a Wednesday, they go out and complete their VET course. So we have students going off to all sorts of different places to do their VET programs. Thursday, they're back at school doing the same classes. And then on Friday, they all complete a work placement. Okay, we might jump to the next slide. Okay, so it's really important that we do talk about a bit of a selection process for VM, because as I've stated, it's not a subject or a program that is going to be suitable for everybody. So in order to get into the VM program and in order to be accepted into that program, there are a couple of things that we need to look at. So the first one is we are expecting, and we are making it very clear, that all students, regardless of what they think they are going to be doing next year, all students must put in a VCE subject selection. So all students must select subjects from VCE. That is because at the end of the year, there might be a whole lot of reasons why people might either change their mind. There might be some reasons why they decide not to go into the VM program. And then if you decide to then go into VCE, you have to pick from whatever subjects are left. You don't get to pick the subjects that you really want to do. So all students, regardless of what you think you're going to do, must select VCE subjects, as Graham spoke about earlier. Once we have the interview night, which is coming up soon, when we sit down and we talk with students and parents, we will discuss VM. And if a student says that they are interested in the VM program, then we will give you an application form, which you will also fill out and return back to the sub-school. So basically, you're putting your hand in for both VCE and VM. And then down the track, if it's VM that you end up doing, we can take you out of the VCE subjects, but at least that you're keeping all doors open. In terms of the process, when we have those interviews and when we look at the students, it's really about those students and the attitude and work ethic. So as we said, students really need to demonstrate that they are serious about this program. We want to see students who have that really strong work ethic. They want to really push hard to try and achieve their goals. We're looking at attendance and uniform. We're looking at behaviour and college values. Those things are important because when we have students working in the community, we need to know that they're going to actually be out there representing the college properly and doing those the things that we expect. It's also about making sure that you have a really strong and clear pathway. So if you're sitting here right now going, look, don't really know whether I want to do VM or VCE, not really sure what I want to do when I finish year 12, then the VM is probably not the program for you right now, because VM is really about students who have a very set pathway. They know what they want to do. They have the contacts at work. They have the vet course lined up, and all of those things can start to fall in place. So if you're a little bit unsure, VCE is the program for you. If you change your mind down the track and you think, look, maybe now VM is better for me, that's always an option down further. So that's where we think it's really important that students start VCE, because it's much easier to move from VCE to VM. It's very difficult to go from VM back to VCE if you change your mind that way. So organisation, career pathway, having your vet programs and employers and all of those things organised is going to be really important. Okay. And I think that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Ben.
Cool.
So as both Ben and Beck have alluded to, our students will have access to vet programs as a part of the VM. Obviously, it's a compulsory part of the program. So students are fortunate in that we have access to one of the best vet clusters in Victoria, the Northern Melbourne Vet Cluster. What that means is our students can access a huge range of vet courses. So not only can our students access courses through the Northern Melbourne Vet Cluster, but we're also able to access courses through our local TAFE providers. So Box Hill and Melbourne Polytechnic both have students from our school and have done so across previous years as well, hosted them for their vet that delivered into secondary schools. So the vet can provide credit towards our VCE. There's two different ways our vets can provide credit. Some of our vets can provide what is called block credit. So that's where the work that the student does within that vet subject doesn't directly contribute towards a score, but they get what is called block credit. So they'll get actually 10% of the score that they achieve in their fourth ranked subject when the ATARs are being calculated, which at this stage is not something we need to worry too much about. But there are other vet subjects which are structured in a similar manner to VCE in the way that they can provide scored assessment for the students. So in that case, students along the way will get graded work and will also sit an exam as a part of their vet studies. So there's a handful of vet subjects that have that as an option. If the students are completing a VM certificate, they don't need to be doing the examined part of the course, but they can still study that same certificate as VCE students who are completing that course as well. For some of our vet courses, there are compulsory work placement components to those courses. One of the examples is early childhood education and care. For that particular certificate, the students need to complete a set number of work or hours in a workplace across the year where they're visited by their trainer before they can actually be deemed competent in some of the units of work there. So there are some vet courses that require the students to complete a vet placement, and students need to be wary of that because for some of those placements, if they're a VCE student, they might occur during the school holiday period. In terms of the application process, I spoke to the students on Monday about that. They'll need to come and collect a vet expression of interest form, especially for the Northern Melbourne Vet cluster, so I can get them up on the portal and try and get the students access to their preferred vet programs at their preferred time. Because we have, within that Melbourne Vet cluster, we have multiple providers for some of the courses. So the students will have choices about where they'd like to go, but through being organised and getting their forms in early, we can try and get the students into the course that they want to get into, as their highest preference. We do need to be wary if we're VCE students, in that if we're looking to do a vet course, we need to start that in year 11. We can't commence a vet course in year 12 as a VCE student. Just the way that the vet courses are structured is that similar to our VCE studies, they're structured the first year, the students complete units 1 and 2. And then in the subsequent year, they complete units 3 and 4. So that the students really need to start those vet subjects in year 11. So up on the screen now, we can see the huge, well, not the huge array, but we can see the array of subjects that students can have access to. As I said to the students on Monday, if they look on that list and there's something that they think that they'd like to do in the vet space, it's not listed there, or they can't find it in the vet cluster handbook that I gave out to the students the other day, then come and have a talk to me, and then we'll see if there's some other provider who might be able to give us access to a program. because there are a heap of courses out there for our students to be able to access. Another way in which our students can engage with VET is through the completion of a school-based apprenticeship. So we have some of our Year 10s who have already commenced school-based apprenticeships, and we encourage students to head down that path if they're certain about that's what they'd like to do. As a part of the school-based apprenticeship, students are engaged in the workplace. They're essentially undertaking an apprenticeship similar to any other apprentice in terms of the training that they do. So as a part of that, they will go to a TAFE and complete some, some learning there, and that's how they get credited into their VCE, and that's how they're completing a VET course as a part of their school-based apprenticeship. We also have students who do traineeships. Traineeships are usually shorter in duration, either maybe 1 to 2 years, right, even 18 months. Similar structure to the SBATs in that there is a work component to the traineeship, and then there's a VET component to that as well. And both of those models can provide students with credit into their VCE and into the VM as well. And we're also, like all state schools are now, members of Head Start, so we can provide the students with some support in working their way through and navigating the school-based apprenticeship space. Alrighty, and finally, some of the things that we've been working with the students over the last semester, I guess, in terms of just sort of getting them to this point where we're asking to start to think about what subjects they would like to choose and which program they'd like to do. Because what we try not to do with our students is set this up as a big decision that they make all at one time. Instead, we've been exposing them across previous years and across the semester from the start of the year to things like having employers come in to talk to the students about their industry, the training that they completed, how they got a foothold in their careers, some of the things that they've done that have worked or haven't worked as well, are important lessons for students to learn. We've been to the institutions. We took the students to Uni of Melbourne, RMIT and La Trobe. Today we had the domain sessions where the domain leaders spoke to the students about the opportunities available in each of the domains. Students have had the opportunity over the last 18 months to complete 3 weeks worth of work experience. And we've also provided students with access to external career expos as well. And just a note for parents, we've changed the date for the TAFE visit, so all the students will go out to either Box Hill or Melbourne Polytechnic, and that date has changed to the 25th of August. So these are the things that we're doing with the students to try and support them in their career journey. The diagram on the right-hand side of the slide there about the DVC student is just some of the attributes that, in terms of their career development, that we're trying to work with the students to develop, to help them to have a bit more agency over their career life development. I think that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Graham. So I'm going to talk about where we're at in the process, the students making these important decisions and selections about what sort of program they might like to have next year. So the next step, I suppose, is for students to start researching courses and subjects, having a look at our VCE handbook that's on the college website. So this week, students have had access to the career development sessions and the domain subject talks which occurred today. From now until next week, students have got time to do that research, to ask questions of their teachers, perhaps, other staff at school that may teach some of those VCE subjects, and even other students, just to start to get a bit of a feel and an understanding about what those subjects may entail. Then next Thursday, we're having our Year 10 transition interviews, which Reg will provide a little bit more detail about that in a couple of slides. And then the VCE subject selections will close on Friday, the 4th of August. So after those interviews, and some discussions taken place, there's a little bit of time to finalise those applications. Now, students who are currently at Year 10 completing a Year 11 advanced placement still need to put an expression of interest in to continue with that advanced placement in 2024. So that would be as part of the Year 11 program, continuing with their Year 12 subject. So those advanced placement forms will be available in hard copy from the Senior Sub-School office tomorrow, but we'll also put an electronic copy up on the campus link, which will also have some additional information from tonight, such as the recording, etc. So those students who are anticipating including a Year 12 subject, continuing on with their advanced placement for next year, need to have those forms to myself by Monday, the 24th of July. So there's a very short window for that, but we would anticipate most students would be continuing on with those advanced placements unless it's something that they haven't enjoyed or it hasn't been successful. So that, you know, should be achievable for them to do so. Tomorrow, at some point during the course of the day, students will be emailed their individual EDVAL login code. So EDVAL is the portal that we use for students to put their subject preferences in, and it's probably more straightforward, to be honest, than what it was last year at Year 10. So when students receive that email to their at school's email address, there'll be a letter attached to it which will provide the website here for them to do so. Those final subject selections are due Friday the 4th of August. Students, once they've uploaded their EDVAL selection, students must provide a hard copy signed by their parent and guardian copy to the Senior Sub-School office, just so that we've got that sort of double coverage of having student selections as well. So this screenshot is what the EDVAL portal looks like. So as I said, much more straightforward than this year. So students in their main unit need to select English, or they may include literature to meet that English requirement as well. Then they need to make sure that they put in priority their next subject. So putting down in order of preference the other 5 remaining subjects that they would like to have as part of their Year 11 program. And we also request that students put 2 reserve subjects in as well, just so that they, you know, if there was a reason why they weren't able to get you know, their top 6 priorities, that they would be happy to study their reserve VCE subject as well. When students are putting in their preferences, and you can see on the example of the drop-down menu here, if students are looking at including a vet subject, as Graham has spoken about, if they're looking at doing an external vet, so part of that Northern Vet cluster, they need to put down ex-vet down as one of their subjects, because that will count as one of their top 6 preferences. If one of the vet subjects that they're looking at doing is one of the 2 vet subjects that we run at Diamond Valley, so we call that an internal vet, they select either vets, sport and recreation, or screen and media as well. So just so you're aware of that. With those EDVAL subject selections, we do recommend, and Reg, as I said, we'll speak about this a bit more, that students put in some selections prior to the interview so that they can bring a copy of their sheet, just so that we can have that discussion as well to support them. What we have here is, again, just as a bit of a draft, a course selection sheet, just so that when students are doing their research, they can start, and, you know, yourself, hope that you're working collaboratively to have a look at the handbook, have a look at the VCAR website, and just start to get a bit of a feel about what the program might look like. So, yeah, we just have this resource that students can start to put down some subjects that they think they may include in their top 6 or in their reserve subjects, just so that, yeah, as I said, they can start to get a feel for what they might like to study. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Reg. Thank you.
Thanks, Beck. So as you can see from the slide here, interviews are happening next week, Thursday the 27th from 1 until 7. There's a 15-minute time slot and the interview times will open up in the next few days. So we're just setting that up now, ready for you to be able to come on and select your time slots. It is the aim of the interviews is to make sure that you make some very informed decisions about your VCE VM pathway, gives you a clear pathway with all the necessary prerequisites for a tertiary course if you're planning that far ahead at the moment, that you're ready and you know what to have in place. So your study habits, your time management, attitude towards your learning, your organisational skills, attendance, and how to use a planner. You do need to ensure that you've completed the achievement folder checklist to bring to the interviews. So your career analysis task, it's important that you have that ready to bring along. A printout of your selections that you've already made, evidence of any work from year 9 and 10, the best work, academic or achievement certificates that you've attained, work experience reports, certificates demonstrating your leadership or community participation, any relevant information to support your pathway plan, and a year 10 report for semester 1. So there's a bit of a folio to put together there. You've got a little bit of work to get ready for that. The next steps. So before we get to that, those interviews, it's important that students consider the following things. Understand the subjects that you are thinking about and read the handbook. Speak to your subject teachers, speak to the teachers that you know are teaching year 12 classes, year 11 and 12 classes currently. Consider your prerequisites for studies at university. So go into the universities, have a look. What should you be studying to make sure you're ready for nursing, for example? Most university subjects don't have a hard prerequisite, but they may have some suggested subjects that you've done. So check the study designs on the VCAR website is absolutely key. In the VCAR website, every subject has a study design so that every school is teaching the same study design, and you have access to that to be able to read it, to understand what happens in Unit 1 and 2, and also what happens in Unit 3 and 4. Collect any evidence for your achievement folder, put that folder together, make sure your checklist is ticked off there, and ask any questions. Come and speak with the members of the senior sub-school team, contact members via Teams, and if you have any questions tonight, please make sure you put that in the chat or stay back afterwards briefly. You could put your question forward, put it into the chat, and we can start to address some of those questions. So if they're coming up for you now is probably a good time to start putting them in the chat. So if you need help, seek help at the senior sub-school and with our staff. We have very knowledgeable staff at our college. Look at the VCAR website and check the college handbook, which is available on our website. So thank you everyone for your attendance this evening. It is a lot of information to take on, but there's plenty of opportunities between now and when you have to have your selections in to ask plenty of questions. So please feel free to speak with anyone present here tonight. If you have any questions, if you want to come off mute or put something into the chat, we'll stop our recording in a moment, but I'd like to thank Beck, Graham and Ben for preparing the session for tonight and getting everything ready. And thanks for Tara for coming along and being in attendance tonight as a support to you as a group. So thank you, everyone. Stay back if you have any questions. And thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Can I just add one thing, Reg? If parents are interested, we have plenty of copies of a little publication that Deep put out, which is called Where to Now. It just explains what we've gone through tonight in terms of the VCE and the VM and how those pathways work, and some examples. I've left a heap of these at the general office if parents want to go and collect a copy of that. Students were given access to this, but as parents know, they might not bring them home. So if parents want to go and get one, there's plenty there for them.
Available online, Graham, as a PDF?
Potentially, I'm not sure, Reg. I've just got heaps of physical copies if people want to come and get some.
I'm sure it will be. So if we can put that title up in the chat, we'll see. Yeah, I'm sure it will be available as a PDF online as well. Thank you.